Creativity and community are absolutely vital in challenging times. Welcome to Syncreate, a show where we explore the intersections between creativity, psychology, and spirituality. We believe everyone has the capacity to create. Our goal is to demystify the process and expand the boundaries of what it means to be creative. We talk with visionaries and change makers and everyday creatives working in a wide range of fields and media, from the arts to science, technology, and business. We aim to illuminate the creative process from imagination to innovation and everything in between. I'm Melinda Rothaus, and I help individuals and organizations bring their dreams and visions to life. At Syncreate, we're here to support your creative endeavors. So if you have an idea for a project or a new venture and you're not quite sure how to get it off the ground, find us at syncreate.org. We're here to help. Our book, also called Syncreate, walks you through the stages of the creative process so you can take action on your goals. We also offer resources, creative process tools, and coaching to help bring your work to the world, including both one-on-one coaching and a monthly creativity coaching group that happens the fourth Sunday of every month. So check it out on the website. We'd also love to hear your feedback on the show, so drop us a line at info@syncreate.org. We'd love to hear your feedback as well as ideas for future topics or guests that you'd like to see us cover. So my guest today is Dr. Vlad Glăveanu. He's a professor of psychology at Dublin City University in Ireland, as well as at the Centre for the Science of Learning and Technology at the University of Bergen. He's the founder and president of the Possibility Studies Network, and his work focuses on creativity, imagination, culture, collaboration, and much more. He is the author and/or editor of many academic books and articles on these fields, including creativity, possibility studies, and so on. Originally from Romania, he's also a fiction writer, and his debut novel is called The Wish Thief. So, Vlad, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you today.
Thank you so much for the invite. Excited to be here.
Yes, and I'm glad we could work it out with our time zone difference. You're in Ireland and I'm here in Austin, so glad we could work that
It's a
out.
small world.
It is, and soon enough, I will be there at the Possibility Studies Conference, which is coming up
Yay.
quickly at the end of June, beginning of July. So
Mhm.
definitely want to touch on that in our conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, but so you're the founder of the Possibility Studies Network, and Possibility Studies is a field closely related to creativity,
Right.
which we both kind of like to swim and play in that space. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, just for our audience today that may not be so familiar, why possibility studies? Like, why were you inspired to sort of start this new field of inquiry that's similar to, but not exactly the same as creativity?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for it. I mean, how many hours do we have? No, I'll try
Exactly.
to be
Right.
but just to say that, yes, I'm kind of a founder, a co-founder. It takes a village to make these big
Of
communities come
course.
together, and I work with so many people. I'm very fortunate to be part of a big community, growing community that I consider you part of as well.
Yes.
So we're co-creating we're co-creating this field. So what is the but? I can ask you as well. Now I will tell you why I came to the possible in so many ways. So I am a social psychologist by training, and then I study creativity, which is already a bit of an original thing to do in some ways, because a lot of people in my discipline, they're cognitive, experimental, whatever other
Right.
psychometric individual differences. So my questions have always been a little bit different. I wouldn't say they're very original because there are a lot of people, even in psychology, but especially in the social sciences and anthropology, in art, education, who ask about context. But for me, the context of creativity has always been extremely important. So the way I like to say it, context is not the background. It's actually the phenomenon, coming together. So
Yes.
I worked on what I call distributed creativity for a while, and then the 5 A's framework and things that I can talk about more extensively if you want me to. But I kind of caught myself after 10, close to 15 years of doing this work, writing the same sentence in different ways. Creativity does not take place only in the head. It's not for isolated minds and geniuses, and it is in between people and spaces and places and culture and so on. And I thought, okay, well, I need to go deeper, with myself and understand why do I study creativity? What got me to it? And
Sure.
it is the possible. It is the possible. It is this idea of becoming aware of sensing, feeling, and acting on what might be or what might become, and then choosing and ethically thinking about if something is possible, should it become real, and things like that. So I wrote a book some years ago now called The Possible: A Sociocultural Theory. That's is kind of my positioning, and I'm very happy later to tell you what how I look at the possible. But basically, following that, I started conversations with people, and what possibility studies is. First of all, the word possible possibility is quite common, which
Yeah.
is a plus. People resonate, they understand implicitly a little bit of what it is, but it doesn't have that long history and sometimes quite charged history of words like creativity or innovation, especially, and others that come with a particular baggage, whether it's their fault. So it wouldn't be their fault, but people, if you say it's the innovation network, they think, oh, it's business and enterprise, and I don't know if I do that. Or even for creativity, which is a topic that I fought with many others for a long time to kind of demonstrate that it's much more universal than just the arts, or even
Yes.
than just capitalist impulses to create goods and consume, and there's so much more to it,
For
but it's
sure.
still within that discourse. So I think possibility studies gives us a chance to project and participate in a overarching kind of category, because what happens and what's really beautiful is that we have people who work on agency, creativity, imagination, inspiration, awe, curiosity, wonder, serendipity, counterfactuals, futures thinking, utopias, dystopias. I mean, you stop me there. There's so many fields, and they genuinely come from many disciplines. So it's very inter/transdisciplinary. So we're trying to break down those silos, academic and also practice-based silos, but also to meet at the in the middle in these big questions around novelty. How do new things come about, right? The nature of change. What is our theory of change? How does transformation happen? Or the ethics of possibility. How do we choose, among things, and so on? So it's new, it's fresh, it's kind of intriguing for people, but it actually has a very long history if you look at the many things that make it up. And finally, just to say, my favorite metaphor is that of the forest. I feel like with creativity, you have this big tree, the creativity tree, and I'm on the sociocultural branch, is somewhere there, with near the probably cross-cultural and social, and there are many other branches that I don't often visit, like the neuroscience of creativity, but they're there, they're in the tree.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we are, as the saying goes, sometimes we're missing the forest because we're looking at only every tree.
Right.
And what is the forest? The forest is possibility. So it's like a mangrove forest. That's how I imagine it, with things that connect at a deeper level in terms of roots and canopy and so on. So yeah, these are the things that animate kind of all of us. And they're the big questions of the day in many ways.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that metaphor because it kind of brings to mind, what is the wider environment in which all of this creativity possibility is taking place. And so many of the words that you mentioned in your description just now, they have a kind of a positive, kind of forward
Mm,
looking connotation to them, right? And I often liken creativity to, you know, there's this quality about it where we're kind of imagining, right? What could be, and
Mhm,
then
mhm.
bringing it into being. And so it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
this amazing process. But just given everything that's going on in the world today, so many crises and
Right.
wars and conflicts, I find it very exciting to be participating
Mm,
in a dialogue and a conversation that opens up possibilities, right? Rather than shutting things
yeah,
down or, as you mentioned, kind of siloing things into these
yeah,
separate
yeah.
categories.
Yeah, thank you. I think you're right. I mean, it's I call it the audacity of hope. We live
Yes.
in quite hopeless dystopian worlds right now, but there is something about the lens of looking at the world through the lens of agency, the lens of empowerment, the lens of participation. This is
Yes.
the big, discourse that and the big practice that we kind of draw from. I do, and this is an interesting point that maybe we'll get to talk about as well. There are darker sides to
Of
possibility also, and
course. Of
it's
course.
interesting to think about, like, in anxiety, the fears are in the realm of the possible. In depression, all the kind of rumination and all these, it's not here, but it's still very tormenting, or tormenting people. Or counterfactual research has a lot of, the negative counterfactual, or the positive, like, this bad thing might not have happened if, can really torment people. So I think it opens up so many beautiful questions, but at the end of the day, it tries to recognize the fundamental openness of human existence. We are
Yes.
not predetermined. The world is not yet given, as Bakhtin would have said, right?
Right.
So yeah, that I completely resonate with this kind of overarching positive ethos, and it's positive and it's also critical, as we all need to be.
Of course, of course. And that's why, I'm going to be coming to the conference, really looking forward to it. And we've put together a panel kind of looking at, you know, creativity and collaboration in challenging times, and
Hmm,
how do
hmm.
we work with that and how do we channel it? And as you point out, there are darker sides of creativity, and creativity can be used for more nefarious purposes
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, as a sort of researcher in this realm of creativity and possibility, what's top of mind for you at the moment?
Oh my God, yes, stuff. I have a very distributed, read chaotic mind, and I was talking to colleagues, and one of the things that fascinates me, because there are possibilities of our own life. You can look at life possibilities as well, and like
Sure.
the life course, and the choices we make, and our identities and ourselves as creative projects, and so on. So I was talking about the constraints and the chance events that shape things. So oftentimes we like to think, yes, the way I gave you a narrative, in some ways, I mean, it has truth to it. It's my truth, but that I moved a bit from, that the bridge was wonder. Actually, that's another great
Yes.
topic that I'm fascinated with, between creativity and the possible. But at the same time, it's the encounters, the things we do. So I don't have this great plan, the master plan, or maybe it will become a master plan if it's ever enacted. But I don't have, you know, a big vision necessarily. What I do at the moment, actually, I do have a few things that really obsess me. I'm quite obsessive with these, but one of them is interventions. And when I say interventions, is the link between theory and practice. It's kind of, I call them possibility spaces. It's understanding the toolkits we have. How do we work with possibilities in ways that are less prescribed as more established methodologies like design thinking, or things that are quite, they have their ways. But I think, to do justice to the possible, we can't have formulas. So what do we have? We have principles, we have ways of working. So I'm interested in the kind of good we can do in the world with this type of thinking. So that's one thing that I'm exploring. Another is to link type of, possibilities with the kind of literacy. And here, this is a world premiere that I'm telling you
Oh,
this
great.
because it's very
Awesome.
recent. Yeah, this is the breaking news, the scoop. But I'm working with a colleague from the US, Katrina Trump, to look at possibilities literacy, basically, because again, I'm in touch with a lot of communities of futures literacy, and you have digital, and today we have an AI literacy and everything. So it's a bit of an overinflation of things, but the idea of literacy is fascinating to me because it taps into much more than a competency. It's not about individual abilities to me and to many people in the field. It's really an orientation, a set of habits, a mindset. And I think a lot of what we try to do with possibilities is that wide ranging thing,
Yes,
rather than sometimes with creativity, we also go into quite narrow things. When you make a
indeed.
profile, it's virgin thinking, convergent thinking, and verbal and visual, and it's a catalog. But literacy, if we use possibility, and this is where we're writing now about that, so I'll keep you posted. Maybe it'll be a second podcast when this when this
Definitely.
is launched. But it's helped by the idea of literacy because it gives it a framing that people resonate with, and they get, we are concerned with literacies. And today we need literacies that involve us in the uncertain, and managing ambivalence and tension and unpredictability. So that's a big part of it. But it also can help us rethink what we mean by literacy because of this open-endedness and nonlinearity and everything that it brings. So yeah. Yeah, that's the top of my mind.
I love
Here are
that.
two topics.
Yeah, well, and what that brings up for me, I appreciate that so much because having always a foot in and outside of academia, um, it's really important to me that the research and the work that we do in an academic context gets out into the wider world and can be of benefit and can be accessible to the wider world. So it sounds like this work with kind of possibility literacy is a step in that direction, right? To kind of
Mhm, mhm,
identifying
mhm.
like what are these universal capacities and how can people work with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
beautiful. Well, tell us a little bit more about the conference you have coming up.
Conference, yeah. Well, this is our highlight of the year. We have quite a few highlights, I have to say. We're full of events, and I can tell you about those as well. But the conference is when we meet many of us. So we're looking at around 200 people associated with this type of events, and we're moving around with it. So Cambridge University organized it last year. We're coming back to Ireland again in world premiere. It's very likely we're returning to the UK next year in the area of Brighton. So
Okay.
anyway, we'll have to fine tune some of those details, but it
Yes.
is moving. It one day will come to Australia. One day it will go to the US or other places. Who knows? We have partners in many places, but it is kind of where we put our principles into practice. So it's if you look at the program, artists and designers and performance arts and workshops and panels and live music, and it is like a celebration of us coming together. And there is a lot of discussion. There are a lot of presentations. There's a lot of knowledge dissemination and production, hopefully. But most of all, it really is kind of re-energizing us. It's
Yes.
one of these things where we get to meet. We also get to meet online for well, the winter conference is very kind of north centered, but the January conference, we have a kind of every half year we meet online and in person, so that we get people, give them a chance, because some people cannot travel, or
Sure.
it's you can't get everybody. So we have this other event in January that's online. Then we have lecture series and weekly seminars, and we're crazy like that. So there are plenty of opportunities to meet like-minded people, to discuss, to share. But yes, it's going to be, I think, fabulous. That's why we do it. It's a week long. We're crazy with these kind of long events because we like for people to have the chance to kind of really sit with some of those ideas. And especially when you make a big trip, as you would, it's kind of nice to really meet some people and really have those conversations. I often find that regular conferences, you get the ideas and everybody's out already there going to the airport.
Right.
So we really like doing that. Some of the highlights, we have an amazing set of keynotes. I'm not going to get into the details of everything because the program should be online on Possibility Studies Network. we collaborate with Creative Ireland, which is a program, a governmental program in Ireland that supports creativity across different layers of society, which is fantastic. Ireland is it's kind of a country that embraced creativity as an identity in so many
Yes.
ways. So that's fantastic, and we have an amazing number of people coming from abroad. It always it humbles me to see, because I'm going to be close to home, to be honest, with this one, but just the amount of energy and enthusiasm, again, from Arizona or the D School, and Canada and Montreal and the School of Circus, to the Sydney University of Technology and other places in Australia. Like, it is our meeting space, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And I can attest, having just come from the creativity conference at Southern Oregon University
Right.
that Mark Runco organizes. It's just such a lovely way. We're so much in this digital space, as you and I are
Yeah.
today, that it's so
Yeah.
wonderful to come together in person with colleagues and just connect in that way, and form lasting connections, potentially new collaborations, exchanging
Absolutely.
ideas. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So great. And then you also publish a journal, Possibility Studies and Society, which I
Right.
am now quite familiar with. Tell us a little bit more about the journal and the kinds of work that you're publishing.
Yeah. Listen, that's one of the biggest achievements probably of the whole project, because it's so hard to start a journal. I
Yes.
mean, I've been editing an online open access journal for decades before I passed it on in the meantime. But um, people can start things, and it's beautiful when they do. But sometimes you have to work with these established publishers. And for us, Sage, and for me, it's been always very close to my heart. They do a lot of social science and human science. So I was delighted when they were interested. It's so hard because, I don't know, apparently journals are a risky endeavor, but we're filling it up with these amazing, to my mind, contributions. If you look at the special issues, a lot of it is special issue and kind of thematic sections based, but we have a stream of independent submissions as well, and we try with it to break a bit the boundaries of traditional publishing. So we invite more creative ways of engagement and writing. There is always the challenge of finding the right reviewers and understanding how quality translates in different disciplines and areas. So that is our more academic communication in some ways. Although, again, we are trying to make things as useful as possible in this in not in a narrow sense, but meaningful, if you want. But we also have, just to say, a magazine that we publish. It's called Possibility Perspectives, which, again, it's linked to our website of the PSN, and that's created by our members, and it has an ISBN, so it's kind of registered. But it is
Wonderful.
about getting these other stories, other perspectives that don't have to go through peer review to be put out there. So it started as a bit of our newsletter in some ways, but then we have these few editions that are accumulating, and in the conference bag, you're gonna get your P squared. We call it Possibly Perspectives, so double P, so P squared. So we're really trying to diversify the ways in which and the kinds of things we tell each other, right? So we have email lists, and we have these seminars and magazines and journals. So it's great. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, great. And so, another thing I want to touch on, you also write fiction, and you have a novel out
Yes.
called The Wish Thief. And it
Right.
just strikes me that so many of us working in the fields of creativity and
Mm.
possibility, we are interested in these topics because we are also creatives working in a variety of
Yeah.
genres. So,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that book and about your
Oh,
fiction writing.
it's very nice that you're asking me about that, because I feel like this is my hobby in some ways. It's very much to the side, but I absolutely love it. I don't have time almost to write, but I love fantasy. So this is supposed to be and will be a trilogy, of course. Of course, it's a
Of
trilogy
course.
called Blended Noir. And I'm writing now the second book, and it's taking a million years, but I'm kind of, a third through or quarters through The Wish Tree, which is the second volume, as it were, in the in the trilogy. And it goes back to what we talk about, like wishing and wishes are a fantastic topic for possibility studies. We kind of
Yes.
forgot, in psychology at least, it got lumped with psychoanalysis, with a lot of things that people find a bit mysterious or vague. But actually, at the Cambridge edition of our conference, I worked with Kim Wilkins, who's from Australia, from Queensland, and she's fantastic. She's an author, and she's absolutely delightful and fantastic. Works with storytelling and creativity, and we presented on wishful thinking or wishful imagination. Wishful thinking has a bad press in some ways, the way
Right.
mind wandering had,
Right.
but actually we discovered the potential, the possibility within it.
For
So
sure.
this idea of making wishes, to me, is about kind of putting out there visions of what you would like to happen that are so strongly emotional and felt, that I think it's fascinating to think about. So the Wish Thief, as the novel, the premise, and I love thinking of premises, and sometimes engaging with flash fiction and little short
Uh-huh.
things where you just imagine a different world, right? So it's kind of medieval, it's fantasy, it's there, it's in that universe. People don't have iPhones, uh, but it is about everybody's born with a wish to make, one wish that will happen, will come true, unless you ask for completely, exaggerated, out of this world things.
Uh-huh.
But that wish will happen. So that becomes the organizing principle of that world, and that invites kind of reflection on what should I wish for, but also fear. What would other people wish for? So it's kind of a wish order is, created so that people get to make wishes in a wise way. And it follows the story of Leah, who's the main character. She's a teenage girl who has a very strong, powerful wish. She's not the only one. It's not a chosen type of narrative. So just to kind of,
Right.
alarm bells are ringing. No,
Right.
more people can have these powerful wishes, and she doesn't want to make any wish, which is almost like a crime in that universe. So she doesn't know what to wish for. She doesn't want her life to change. And the first book is, as the title suggests, there is a kind of a mysterious thing happening that makes her go through different adventures and kind of reconnect with this idea of the wish, that she can make, and look at it differently. I'm not going to tell you if the wish is made or not by the end, because that's when
Gotta read
people
the
should
book.
read.
Right.
There's also an audiobook, by the way. The book was read by fantastic Dana Rowe, who's amazing. So those who like
Wonderful.
listening in can actually listen to the whole thing. Yeah.
Great. Great. Yeah, it's interesting to think about if you only had one wish and you had to think
Right?
very
It's almost
carefully,
maddening.
what would you wish for, right? If you knew it could come true. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, wish making is such a theme across human history. But if you look
Yes.
at storytelling, if you look at the stories around wishes,
Mhm.
I mean, the whole thing of Disney is
Yeah.
based on,
And the 3
making like,
wishes. Yeah.
exactly. And we don't want to get too copyrighted, but what was that song? I think it was famous from Cinderella that I'm not going to sing anything. Don't worry. That a dream is a wish your heart makes, or something like that.
Yes,
Very famous,
right.
powerful lines. And and the Disney 100 was the movie Wish.
Right? There you
What
go.
what can we, what more? What else is there? Like, these are the people who populate our imaginary. So clearly it's it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of back to the, creativity and possibility, I think that anything new that comes into being ultimately has to start with some kind of a wish, or at least an idea of what could be, back to the
Yeah.
theme of
Yeah.
possibility, but isn't yet in existence. So it's very
Mhm.
powerful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. So yeah, you see, there are parallels. I don't think of possibility studies when I write fiction. I'm not, like the theory says it should be. No. So I kind of let it, what I enjoy. And if you have, writing experience, if you love writing, or it's really being surprised almost by the story. I have a narrative, obviously, but it's often kind of challenging me, and it goes in a direction, and I find myself writing things and I'm like, well, it's natural that would happen. So that's the beauty of it, really. It's never fully in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. So, I'm curious, like when you talk with people who aren't academics, just people out in the world about this idea of possibility, or maybe even kids, right? Um, I'm saying this because I usually like to conclude each episode with what I call a creativity pro tip. So something that people can take and kind of try out on their own. So for people that might not be, so familiar with this field or this line of inquiry, what's something tangible that they could try out? Or, when you talk to people, lay people or kids,
Yeah.
how do we get people starting to think about this realm of possibility?
Oh, what a great question. Again, how many hours do we have?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are many. Like, I'm gonna take now the wonder thing that I told you. I'm
Yes.
completely fascinated with. Wonder is about not knowing,
Yes.
but as a generative, productive state. I mean, it's very Socratic. Again, it has a huge history spanning millennia. It's a shame we don't talk more about wonder, but philosophy, according to Socrates, is born in wonder. Everything about this deep thought, deep thinking is about wonder. And what wonder does, and this is where it's so interesting in relation to curiosity, which is, of course, something else that I love. Curiosity often takes you from not knowing to knowing.
Yes.
So you inquire, you're curious, you satisfy your curiosity. You never satisfy wonder. Wonder is not to be satisfied. That's what makes it so frustrating at the same time. And it takes you from knowing to not knowing. So one of
Uh-huh.
the things that I love is to think, okay, I'm looking around and I think I've got it. I know what everything is around me here. But if I start asking a different question about what I see, I would discover that things and events and people and ideas, they're always more than I think they are. So one of the things, for example, with very everyday objects like a cup or whatever, you can think of the geometry of the cup. You can think about the music you can create with a cup. You can think about a poem that makes it an art object. You can think of signing it and making a found art object. If you were Duchamp, it'd be millions. But what is a cup? I mean, that is the state of wonder. When
Yes.
when basically you explode reality into these myriad possibilities. And of course, then there are other things people can do to sort and think about and kind of select. That's a huge one as well. What are our values? What do we prioritize, and so on. So it's all reflection all the way down. It's turtles and reflection all the way down. So that's what keeps me busy. That's what I love doing, is asking people and asking myself these out there questions.
Yes.
And that's what I would encourage as a daily practice, almost like a little meditation of sorts. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that because, I think when we're young, we have that sense of wonder. Just, everything is kind of new and fresh and we're exploring and learning about the world. And then as we get older, we tend to get more and more focused on the practicalities of
Exactly.
everyday life. So just kind of
Yeah.
coming back to wonder is such a beautiful practice.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Good. Well, if people want to learn more about your work, about the Possibility Studies Network, what are the best ways for them to learn more?
Right. Well, so we're very fortunate to have a network, Possibility Studies Network, which is possibilitystudiestegether.net. um and there you can go in, about us, contact us, and you can put your email, and then you'll be on our email list, so you'll get to know everything and
Great.
explore a bit the website and so on. But also, I'm a director of a DCU, so Dublin City University, which is my university here, of a center, DCU Centre for Possibility Studies, and it's fresh, brand new, and we have a website now, which is great, so people can look up that as well. And we have 6 themes we work on, and we will actually, and you'll be happy, as you come, hopefully, to the conference, we're going to officially launch the website too, and the center at DCU
Oh,
on the
great.
Friday. We'll take people by bus, and whoever wants to. We're not kidnapping anybody, and kind of do another university and the center. So a very more formal kind of launch. So yeah, so there's the center, there's the network. And then for me personally, I'm not on social media much. I barely know what Instagram is and works. I didn't catch up. I'm studying actually TikTok and stuff. I'm not on. I'm on LinkedIn. It's very old school, very traditional.
Yeah.
And yeah, my email is vlad.glăveanu@dcu.ie.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us
Thank
today.
you.
And
Thanks.
look forward to seeing you in person at the conference.
Can't wait. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. My pleasure. Find and connect with us on YouTube and social media under Syncreate. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe and leave us a review or reach out to us at info@syncreate.org to connect. We're recording today at Record ATX Studios in Austin, Texas, with Dr. Glaveanu joining us from Dublin. The podcast is produced in collaboration with Mike Osborne at 14th Street Studios. Thanks so much for being with us, and see you next time.